hospitality take root in our hearts. May the gift of hospitality be ours to impart as we welcome the stranger who knocks at our door, as we share with them at our table. May we reach out our hands to the one who needs our care. May we walk the road with them that their story may be heard. May our hearts be ever open to the unexpected one, that they may be a stranger no more.
Dear Goods, God be with you. I have greeted you in my native Irish tongue, Gaelic. It is one of the many languages spoken throughout the world by brothers and co-workers. It gives me great pleasure and satisfaction to use this medium for the first time to speak to you from the General Curia here in Rome. I am using this medium because it seems the most effective way of showing you how the face of the order has changed and is changing at an increasing rapid pace. Each year, the lives of more than 20 million people are touched by a follower of St. John of God in more than 50 countries around the world where the order has presence. Would it have been possible for anyone to predict the revolution that was to take place in the scope and extent of the work that John of God started in Granada in the last years of his life until his death in 1550? In everything that we do today, we are challenged and supported by the realization that our actions make the compassion of St. John of God real and active in the lives of people in need. The John of God story is one of constant change. When John started his mission, he began simply as an individual, helping the abandoned, poor and sick whom we found on the streets of Granada, sometimes taking the weakest and sickest of them back to the porch of the house of the Venegas family. In a short space of time, the porch became too small for the number of persons that John brought home at night, so he accepted the suggestion of some people to move to a house in Lucena Street. These good people obviously also provided the financial resources for him to do so. Because of overcrowding, it wasn't long, however, before John had to move again from Lucena Street to a larger facility at Los Gomelas Street. John saw the hand of God acting in the people and the events that brought about necessary change if his mission was to continue and develop. Thankfully, over the centuries, we have continued to adapt, change and develop in the same way. We left the security of Granada and our hospital there to go to other Andalusian cities and to Madrid. We answered the call to go as what we would call today medical attendants, with armies and navies during periods of war and exploration in the 16th century. This new ministry took us to other countries, both in Europe and the New World. In many places, we took on new ministries in response to urgent needs, such as orthopedic work in Spain and psychiatric work in France. Even that quick sampling of our early history shows our capacity for adaptation and change when such is required by our mission. The urgency of the mission today and the imperative contained in the hospitality of St. John of God impels us to provide quality services everywhere we go, which also serve as models of care. Again, let us look at a few more modern examples. This is the St. John of God night shelter at Marseille, which the French province has run for more than 100 years. This type of service that provides food, shelter, and other necessities for homeless people is the forerunner of the many similar institutions and services we conduct now in a number of provinces. This hospice for people suffering from terminal cancer in Munich was opened in 1991 in response to a new unmet need for palliative care that was revealing itself in society. Today, we find similar works in Gwangju, Korea, and Yangji, China. In all these locations, our centres and services were the first of their kind. This centre for persons with a learning disability at Vellore in India is important because it promotes a community-based approach to serving children and persons with learning disabilities that involves parents and families and helps to emphasise the rights and dignity of disabled persons. In Muzuzu, northern Malawi, in 1993, the Irish provinces started the St. John of God Community Services, a community-based mental health service that over the years has responded to the needs of the local people by developing a wide range of therapeutic, preventative and educational services that have enhanced the quality of life for all who live in that area. The hospital-based work that the Brothers of the Canadian Province established in Vietnam in the 1950s has given way to a deep commitment on the part of our Vietnamese brothers to the practice of traditional medicine and the manufacture of traditional remedies. In their largest centre at Bien Hoa, they treat approximately 300 patients each day, and this centre is recognised by authorities as a centre of excellence. In Spain, this centre for immigrants represents a timely response to a pressing social need. It provides people who are homeless and adjusting to a new culture with support in various forms: food, shelter, clothing, employment counselling and legal advice. The Austrian province is constantly developing its services for patients whose hearing is impaired. The hospitals at Linz and Vienna have medical, nursing and paramedical personnel especially trained to be able to communicate directly with persons with a hearing impairment. This does away with having an interpreter during medical consultations and treatment. At 3 locations in Poland, Warsaw, Łódź and Drohobych, we have dining rooms and other necessary services for homeless and needy people, such as showers, renewing clothing and obtaining medical attention when required. In the developing country of Papua New Guinea, our services are focused on rural health needs. The Brothers train as community health workers, and part of their service is carried out by operating rural health centres and patrolling into remote areas. A most recent development and mission has been the response of the Colombian province to a government appeal to take on main responsibility in partnership with 2 other entities, a university and an insurance company, for 2 hospitals and their clinics in the city of Bogota. The objective is to transform the operation of these hospitals so that the infrastructure is updated, services are improved, and the ongoing development of the personnel is secured. It is expected that these hospitals will become models for the nation, in the same way as the hospital at Cartagena, also in Colombia, has been transformed by our involvement since 2007. These few examples are an indication of how we are responding to new needs in a manner that mirrors John of God's own understanding of his mission. They show that the mission we carry out demands flexibility, an openness to change, with a willingness to respond to urgent and unmet needs. It is a measure of your dedication to the work of St. John of God and your identification with his vision that has resulted in so many new initiatives being developed and are continuing to be developed even as I speak. It seems to me the intrinsic nature of hospitality inculcates in the follower of John of God a sensitivity towards or an awareness of the needs of people that elicits from them a response that is in accord with his philosophy and spirit. In many parts of the world, we continue the traditional apostolates or works for people with a long-term illness. Here too, we are engaged in the process of deinstitutionalization or normalization, which means relocating people back into the community, living in small group homes or on their own, depending on their ability and particular need. They now form part of the wider community and participate in its various activities. With support systems that we provide in partnership with local government or other agencies, people previously dependent now enjoy an improved quality of life and to a degree of independence and self-actualization previously not considered possible. The professional expertise and skills that each one of you has, together with your own human qualities, enriches hospitality. I know that many of you, and indeed sometimes the families of some of you, make many sacrifices because of the requirements of hospitality. For this, I sincerely thank you. These are not the only changes that have taken place, however, but there has been a very significant change in the way in which we brothers see our role. Many of us recall a period of history when our mission seemed constrained to those who were male and in our own hospitals or hospitals for which we were responsible. For a long time, we saw ourselves as providers of healthcare and social services. The role of the laity in that mission was one of support. We now define the brother's role as that of being a critical conscience, a moral guide, a prophetic presence, open to new needs, and close collaboration with co-workers. What do we mean by critical conscience? In any situation, the brother should be the one who can be relied upon to critique the situation according to Christian values and the John of God tradition. Moral guide. In any situation, the brother should be the one who can be relied upon to promote the course of action that is right and just according to Christian values and the John of God tradition. Prophetic presence. In any situation, the brother should be the one who can be relied upon to proclaim and promote the reign of God. Any brother, in any situation, alone or in community, young or old, sick or well, can carry out this role. I would even say that the brother has an iconic role in that he, by his life choice and religious profession, always personifies the relationship that John of God had with the people he served, the people who worked with him, and the people who were his benefactors. In fact, he felt a brother to everyone he met. I usually call everyone my brother. Some people feel that in order to preserve tradition, that things need to remain the same, static as it were. In my reflection on this situation, I keep recalling a French axiom, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they remain the same. Whether we are aware of it or not, all of us have changed. In fact, science tells us that our physical bodies change every 7 years. Likewise, if we take a close look at our lives, our attitudes, and the way we live our lives, we will find that in fact we all have changed substantially over the years. John Henry Newman, the English cardinal, states that to live is to change. To have lived long is to have changed often. Is it any wonder, therefore, that when we look at our history as a St. John of God family, we can see the enormous changes that have taken place down the centuries? You might say a new face, a new way of being present to the world, a new way of responding to the needs of people and people in need is being fashioned constantly. What has remained constant, however, despite great differences in time, place, situations or conditions, are the values, the motivation and the commitment to the brother or sister in need, as demonstrated for us by St. John of God, whom we try to emulate in our daily lives. Our capacity for change is part of our nature as a group, because we've always had a sense of being sent and led to the poor, sick and needy, in order to bring into their lives the fraternal healing presence of Jesus. Our capacity for change is brought about by our faithfulness to the original inspiration that is St. John of God and the legacy of hospitality that he left us. These two things have helped and enabled us to live and grow. In every culture, the practice of hospitality is a quality that is found to some degree. But the hospitality of which I'm speaking is the acceptance and service of the other that was lifted to a higher level by Jesus, when he told us not to be satisfied when we give hospitality to those who can repay us. When you have a party, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame and the blind. Then you will be blessed, because they have no means to repay you. So you will be repaid when the upright rise again. This is the hospitality that John of God lived out in his life, and today we seek to do the same. And this is what Pope Pius V was referring to when he welcomed the gift of John of God hospitality into the life of the people of God in 1572. He is reported to have said, "Behold the flower that was lacking in the garden of the church. May the Lord be thanked that such a necessary institute has been born in the church in our times." Perhaps the biggest instrument of change in modern times was the Church speaking to us through the Second Vatican Council, which was convened by Pope John XXIII. The Council urged us to use the Scriptures and our foundation story as instruments of renewal. Following this process, we rediscovered St. John of God, and this shaped the way that we evolved in the years since the Second Ecumenical Council of the Vatican, more than anything or anybody else. It was not by accident that one of the most significant documents published by the General Curia during this intense renewal phase was entitled, "John of God Lives On." John of God does indeed live on, in each one of you and in me. Soon after I became Prior General, in talking with brothers and co-workers, I found myself frequently referring to the changing face of the Order. That fact is self-evident, but I also saw that this changing process disturbs some of the people to whom I speak. They interpret change in a negative way, seeing it as a diminishment of our mission and a loss of many aspects of the John of God story that they love. I feel compelled to offer another interpretation. In order to preserve the heritage that we have received from John of God, we need to be renewing constantly, updating and refocusing on the mission, with the assurance that no matter what changes in our structures, methods and styles, John of God's charism of hospitality remains constant in the world with its magnificent results. I believe that this comforting thought should give us reassurance, peace and motivation to go forward with determination and confidence. I would now like to share with you the significance of being a religious brother. The call to be a brother of St. John of God is the call to be an icon of the fraternity that Jesus felt and expressed to all whom he met during his time here on earth. John of God understood that. It is this sense of fraternity that characterizes our service of people who may be poor, sick, or needy in some way. We never approach the people we serve as if we were their benefactors, in a condescending manner, or as if they were indebted to us in some way. We always approach them as our brothers and sisters. The brother, wherever he may be, always makes the spirit of John of God fraternity present. However, the reduction in the number of brothers means that the fraternal and hospitable presence of brothers in certain centres and services of the Order has become a memory for some co-workers and has never been experienced by others. This need not mean the disappearance of the sense of fraternity from the operations of those centres and services. A spirit of fraternity with both fellow workers and those whom we are privileged to serve in their various needs is part of the legacy of hospitality that has been bequeathed to us by a man who saw himself as the brother of everyone he met, including the Prince Regent of Spain. It continues to make itself evident in the attitudes and actions of many of our co-workers, who share the charism of John of God hospitality and are imbued with the love of it. They too understand that a sense of fraternity is an essential element in the life of a truly St. John of God centre or service, and they make sure that it prevails in their relations and professional work in the centre or service. To brother is to bring to our ministries the catalyst of our relationship with Jesus, who entered our humanity as brother. To brother is to be inclusive in one's relationships. No one is excluded. To brother is to proclaim passionately in word and deed a God who continuously calls us to hope. To brother is to witness to the call to all to live as brothers and sisters. For a society that is torn apart by hatred, mistrust and senseless violence, this is a wonderful mission. Therefore, to live in the way of fraternity constitutes a singular blessing for the Church and a spiritual therapy for humanity. To brother is to listen to the spirit and cry of the earth. To brother is to be flexible, open to change, courageous, innovative and mobile. To brother is to be a builder of bridges between different social classes and individuals within society and the Church, rich and poor, clergy and laity, in a spirit of ecumenism between Christians and persons of other faith traditions. To brother is to befriend and advocate on behalf of those people who have lost everything, their dignity, their humanity, their freedom, their civil and human rights. To brother is to befriend those who are stigmatized because of the nature of their illness or disability, and who are traumatized because of rejection and violence towards them. To brother is to be a man of prayer, a living witness to our brother Jesus. Get to know him through prayer, reflective reading of the Scriptures. You might ask, how do I see the co-workers? To be a co-worker is to embrace the John of God vision of hospitality. To be a co-worker is to identify with the philosophy and uphold the values of St. John of God. To be a co-worker is to be compassionate in a relationship focused on restoring each person to feelings of self-esteem and being welcomed. To be a co-worker is to enable, empower and sustain those who feel marginalized because of the nature of their illness or disability. To be a co-worker is to stand with and support those who strive for equality and justice. To be a co-worker is to be creative, imaginative and visionary in advancing the mission of hospitality. To be a co-worker is to encourage and embrace the most up-to-date methods with a collaborative approach in furthering the John of God mission. To be a benefactor or volunteer is also to be a co-worker with those who continue the work of St. John of God. To be a benefactor is to share in and support the John of God mission through prayer and financial contributions. To be a volunteer is to give of one's time in support of the objectives of the mission of John of God in a variety of ways. Both co-worker and brother, having received the gift of hospitality, makes us brothers and sisters in hospitality, united in mission. Seeing ourselves as the St. John of God family is a true reflection of the way John of God himself related to the people he served, the people he worked with, the people he encountered when doing the rounds of the city to collect the sick and dying, or when begging for alms. It is a relationship, a bond based on mutual trust, respect, friendship and a shared vision. This approach is not only refreshing, liberating and empowering, but I have to say also challenging, but it is the way of the future. So what does the future hold for us? In my humble opinion, our future will be as different from the present as we are different from what we were like at the time of the Second Vatican Council. Is this a good thing? I don't have the answer to that or similar questions of that nature. For me, it is not important what shape the religious life will take in the future. The critical question for me is to do whatever it takes to continue to be a credible witness to the radical following of Jesus and to be a compassionate and loving presence of our Heavenly Father in the midst of his suffering children, in whatever form that will take. This will come about by the power of the Holy Spirit and our willing and joyful cooperation. In terms of renewal, the Second Vatican Council did not give us a roadmap or blueprint, just good advice. Return to the Scripture and the original inspiration of your institute, your founder. I think this advice is still valid, and I might add, read the signs of the time. We need to continue to do that today, and also to take into account the experiences of the past 40 years and the theological reflection and insights gained during that period. Some of you, of course, might think that there have been too many changes, which might have some validity, but I believe there will be even greater changes than we have so far experienced ahead of us. Already we are exploring, and some provinces putting into effect, the setting up of types of structures that will carry the mission forward even in situations where there are no brothers. This is to ensure that our centres and services continue to contribute to the healing ministry of the Church. According to Church law and our own constitutions, we are a religious institute, and we increasingly describe this institute as a family, the St. John of God family, where brothers and co-workers are united and committed to continue the mission of St. John of God. Sometimes we work together, while at other times, according to circumstances and occasions, we work separately. But the important thing to keep in mind is this: whether we work together or we work separately, whether there are brothers in the service or there are not brothers, it is the same mission that we are engaged in, that of John of God. I believe that we have now reached the stage that we do not need to be constantly repeating brothers and co-workers when referring to the membership, but rather us or we. I can see a time when co-workers will be missioned to go and establish new hospitaler works in response to contemporary needs. I can also see a time when some co-workers will ask to make a commitment, a promise, a vow, if you will, of hospitality, like the brothers, to continue the work of St. John of God in his name and with the Spirit. I believe that this is the direction in which the Spirit is leading us, because the urgency of the mission to which we are committed impels us to change, adapt and refocus on the needs of people and of people in need according to time and place. I see God giving the Church and society two great gifts through us. The first gift is the call to be brother. The second, hospitality in the manner of St. John of God. A greater awareness is developing of the uniqueness of the call to be brother. This call is a gift God gives to his Church, which shows to all of humanity how the members of the family of God should live, as brothers and sisters, something to which all are called. The second gift that God gives to his Church and humanity through us is hospitality in the manner of St. John of God, which is embraced by all of us, brothers and co-workers, and can be defined as welcoming and caring for the stranger who has no claim on us for such kindness, except their need and our John of God tradition of hospitality. Hospitality is now interpreted and given expression in a manner that is ever ancient, yet ever new and modern, according to the needs of people who are suffering in any way. In the words of Pius XI, ancient charity with the most modern of methods. This process obviously is never-ending. It's mushrooming, vibrant and active. I would like to think that John of God takes great pride in what his family, that's us, are doing, in the same way as a teacher or master takes pride when his students do even better than he or she has done. Jesus said that you will do even greater works than I have done. Surely St. John of God marvels at how the little seed that he sowed in Granada by the power of the Holy Spirit has become that beautiful flower in the garden of the Church referred to by Pope St. Pius V. In 2006, Pope Benedict XVI, in his encyclical Deus Caritas Est, said, "Charity is not a kind of welfare activity which could equally well be left to others, but is a part of the Church's nature, an indispensable expression of her very being." Hospitality is what gives us our identity. It is at the heart of who we are. We are at the heart of the Church and at the same time at the frontier of its activity and mission. I have often thought as I visit our centres and services around the world, wouldn't it be great if every one of you could see what I see, hear what I hear, experience what I experience? It would fill you with a deep sense of pride at belonging to a family whose membership positively touches the lives of tens of thousands of poor, sick and needy people every day. In some parts of the world, we also help to influence government policy related to sections of the public who are marginalised because of the nature of their illness. We also help to reform aspects of the health services or set up models of care that serve as an example for others to follow. This presentation is my way of sharing with you what we do as an organisation, a religious institute, as a family worldwide. While this way of communicating has its limitations, I do hope that you have obtained some sense of the good that is being done by a relatively small but very dedicated workforce that includes you and me. What we do helps to make the world a better place for people to live in, despite illness, disability, or the infirmities associated with old age. Unfortunately, there will always be more people in need than we can respond to, and this, as was the case with St. John of God, will always be a source of deep sorrow for us. But for those who come into our lives, both they and we are enriched by the encounter. This, I believe, is something to be really proud of. I can safely say, therefore, that through us, that is you and me, John of God truly lives on, and his mission will never cease, as long as there are people who are willing to do good to themselves by doing good to others. To conclude this sharing with you, my brothers and sisters in hospitality, as representative of St. John of God, and worthy though I am to be called to serve in this way, I thank each one of you in his name for your commitment and faithfulness to continue his work. I thank you for the sensitivity that you show in serving those brothers and sisters in greatest need, among them the lonely, the children, the sick and the elderly. Finally, in the words of St. John of God, I assure you that what you do is recorded in the book of life. Now stay with God. And thank you.
May the seeds of hospitality take root in our hearts. May the gift of hospitality be ours to impart as we welcome the stranger who knocks at our door, as we share with them at our table.